Hey there, folks. Santee at the Arizona Ghostwriters here. I'm here with Robin Wayne, stuntman, actor. We're going to talk to him today and find out the nitty-gritty about the business. You ready for that?
I'm ready.
Okay, good.
Two riders. One on the left, that's J.D. Kincaid. One for bank robbery, 4 states.
All right, first of all, give me a little history. Where are you from originally? You from here?
I was born in Maricopa County
Oh, wow.
and raised in Pinal County, and then I moved to Pima County about early 70s.
Oh, okay.
So I've been here ever since.
Okay, how does somebody get into doing stunts? Where did that interest come from?
Well, for me, it was opened a newspaper one day, and there was a small little ad that said gunfighters wanted at old Tucson studios. And I was like, what is that, you know?
Yeah.
So I went out to old Tucson and I auditioned. They beat me up, and shot me, and kicked me around. And when we finished it, they said that I beat up well and I died good. And I got hired that day.
Wow, that's
So,
impressive. Wow.
I was there, that was in 1981. And I was at old Tucson till 1989.
Okay. All right. And while you were at Old Tucson doing stunts, you ended up in a lot of films and a lot of TV shows.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. He just showed me his resume. It's like 4 pages long. So, yeah. 3 of those are horse falls. No, I'm kidding. I made that up. I don't know if that's true or not. I didn't look at it that hard. But that's pretty exciting. So you're out there and you're doing stunts now. I work out there now, so I see the stunt shows. You get kind of a routine going. You're doing all these shows like the Day of the Hunter or whatever, the Phillips Ranch one, all those shows you're doing day in and day out. Then all of a sudden a film comes in, right? And they're saying, hey, Robin, we need you. Now you're doing something different. What are they expecting you to do that's different than you were doing at Old Tucson?
Well, working daily shows, it's completely different than working a film. Working film, you always know what it is they want you to do.
Yeah.
You know, they want you to ride hell-bent for leather through town shooting your gun or whatever it is. Saddle fall or fight scene, explosion. Old Tucson, started working there, I was making like $23 a day.
Wow.
Back then it was very little money. But working a film, I went from making like $23 a day to making $300 a day. So it was a huge incentive to work a film when they came through.
I would say so. Now, we were just talking before we started today, and he was giving me sort of a rundown on what kind of things they would charge for. So $300 when you're working on the film, is that for a whole day of shooting, or is that just for one stunt?
That's for your day of filming.
Your day of filming. Okay. And that's as a stuntman or as an actor?
As an actor.
As an actor. Okay, so now we've got $300. Now we want you to fall off a horse. Now what?
Well, you make your regular SAG scale, which is at that time was about $300 a day.
Still pretty good.
Yeah. So then they'd figure out they wanted you to do the saddle fall. You're going to ride up, get shot. I always would get off to the side with the stunt coordinator and ask him a question. My question I would ask him is, how would his budget work with my hazard pay adjustment? And basically what I'm doing is I'm asking him, how much extra am I going to make for taking a chance of getting hurt?
Right.
Right? And all the coordinators that I worked with were all quite liberal with the money. You know, it was like they had a pretty good budget.
Right.
And Jerry Gatlin, one day,
Know that name?
whenever we were doing Red River, I asked him, you know, how's your budget work on my hazard pay adjustment? And he looks at me and he says, I'll pay you just like the big boys in Hollywood, $250 every time you hit the ground. So I did 2 saddle falls in like 15 minutes. Okay. And I went from 300 to 800. for the day, you know.
Wow, that's pretty amazing.
And that time I was making like 25 a day at Old Tucson.
Okay.
So
I don't sit there and think that, boy, that's a lot of money, because I know what you guys do. I've seen it. I know how difficult it is.
Falling off the awning, it's that simple.
Or if it's so simple, why don't we have the actor do it, Roger?
I'd like that in one take, Cooper.
Certainly hope so.
As I told you on the phone before we met today, I read a couple of books by Yakima Canutt and Chuck Robeson, and you said you met Chuck Robeson. Chuck Robeson was John Wayne's, basically he was his stunt double for a lot of his films, and stand-in and all that. And I read about them. I know what they go through. I mean, there is a high likelihood that you're going to get injured whenever you're out there. I mean, it's not all that safe.
we did a film called Posse.
Wait,
There-
which one?
With
two. There's
Mario
Kirk-
Van Peebles.
Oh, right, yeah.
Okay. I was in a gang of bad guys that were chasing him down.
You don't say.
Right.
Do you ever play a good guy? No, we'll get to that later. Go ahead.
Once,
So
my very first part, I was a good guy.
oh, okay.
My first SAG part,
Yeah.
the one that got me my card, my membership, was a film called Flashpoint with Treat Williams and Chris
Yeah,
Christopherson.
I remember that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was a Border Patrol agent in that one.
Oh, okay. So, yeah, you were a good guy. Okay.
Yeah.
The actual geosensors will be buried throughout your sectors.
You mean we have to go out and bury those things?
That's right.
But anyway,
Go back to Posse. I interrupted. Just my fault. Sorry,
doing Posse, just speaking of horses, there was a scene where there's a man on the horse, there's guys in a wagon with a Gatling gun shooting at him.
Oh,
I'm the guy in the wagon that's loading the magazine into the Gatling gun.
I remember that. Yeah.
And he runs up, Mario Van Peebles, which Mario did none of this. His double did it all. Runs up, leaps on the horse from behind the guy, grabs him, wrestles with him, throws him to the ground, rides the horse right towards the Gatling gun, jumps over the wagon, which is with us in it,
Yeah.
falls, hits the ground, the horse falls to the ground, and he gets up and continues the gunfight. Well, that's about a little, I don't know, 6 seconds of film, maybe 10 seconds of film.
Yeah.
Took all day long to shoot it.
Okay.
The very first horse, the horse that allowed two men to get on it and fight, was a trained horse that is trained to have two people on it, right?
Right.
Then another horse that looks very similar to that horse is trained to jump. So they do the scene with him fighting, he throws the guy down, then they cut, and he's on the horse that jumps. That horse runs, jumps over the wagon, and then they cut to a horse that looks very similar to the other two horses, and that horse is trained to fall down, and that horse fell down.
Okay.
And then he gets off of it and gets into the gunfight. But to do that one little scene, there were 3 different horses, all trained to do a specific thing. So just to let you know that horses they're tremendous athletes,
Right.
and they're all highly trained for the most part when
Were
they're
they-
on film.
Were they brought out from Hollywood? Did they belong to the
The
Wrangler from Hollywood, or-
the Wrangler guy that was doing all the horses for that film brought them with him.
Okay. All right.
Well, I don't think he actually brought them with him, but the man that was doing the riding, the stunts,
Yeah.
he brought his horses to do the stunts.
Okay.
So
All
you've
right.
got a guy who's got these horses, and then the coordinator will call him up and go, hey, we need horses for this, and
Right.
then they all rendezvous. And
I guess you probably spend some time with a horse to get used to understanding its personality and stuff before you actually do the stunt, right? They don't just throw you up there and say, "Okay, go fall when we shoot you." That's
I always would get there early
Yeah.
and go over, and I'd sit in my saddle and talk to my horse and ride as much as I could before we shoot.
Perfect. Okay.
Just let the horse know who I am and
Right.
what I'm expecting of him.
That's pretty cool. Yeah. Huh. Now, speaking of stuntmen, did you have one that you looked up to? I mean, I'm sure there's a lot of them, but is there one that you said, that's the guy I want to emulate when you would watch movies or TV shows?
Well, when I first started at Old Tucson, right away what I learned was that there are certain people who were the pioneers of this art of stunt work. And one of them was Buster Keaton
Buster Keaton, right? Absolutely.
and the Keystone Cops.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Then, of course, as you go through time, you got comedy sit guys who were like the Three Stooges, and
Right.
Lou and Abbott Costello,
Yeah,
those
yeah.
guys. But those guys were all great contributors to what came later. Of course, there's Yakima. He's every stuntman who's ever walked the face of the planet knows his name and of what he did. He was the one who figured out how to work with horses, how to do transfers from a horse to stagecoaches without getting killed. You know,
Right.
I don't know, on film it always looks pretty easy. You know, you just ride up and jump over, but it's not easy at all.
Yeah.
Especially with a stagecoach, you got big wheels turning right there. I learned how to do the Pony Express mount and dismount.
Oh yeah, the one where they'd sort of bounce on the ground and swing up into the
Right,
saddle.
right.
Yeah.
Grab the running horse and then you just vault into the saddle. I actually worked 19 episodes, but I have 21 on my credit.
Okay.
Through 2 episodes, they did flashbacks from
Previous episodes.
previous episodes, and I was in them.
Yeah, that counts. That counts. Right, absolutely.
Well, I got a contract in the mail. I signed it and sent it back, and I get a day's pay. You know, never even show up on set, and I still get a day's pay for that flashback scene.
Really?
Yeah.
Did you expect that? Was that, or did you
I
just
had
all of a
no
sudden-
idea that would happen until it happened. But it happened to me twice. on
That's
Young
pretty
Rider.
amazing. That's fun. Did you enjoy working on the Young Riders?
Oh, I loved it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Most of the people that were working there, like Josh Brolin, and all the other kids that were there, and they were literally kids.
They were kids, yeah. Stephen Baldwin.
They used to come over and hang out with us, you know, because we were always playing with our pistols, spinning and twirling and all that, and they really wanted to be able to do that, you know, for their show.
Sure.
And so they would come over and they'd talk to us and hang out with us whenever they had an opportunity, which was fun. We had a lot of funny things happen with guns out there. When you're doing a roof fall, you know, you let your gun go because you don't want it falling with you.
Right.
Kind of like try to send it off to a softer area. Sometimes it would turn around, and I had mine fly through the air one time, and then the hammer stabbed into the boardwalk, so the barrel was pointing up and the butt was pointing up, and it was stabbed in the boardwalk, just sitting there.
You can't plan that.
No. That's a lot of times when something like that happens, the tourists come over afterwards and they were like, how do you make that happen, you know?
Practice.
Practice, yeah.
So you've done a lot of Western movies while you're doing this stuff there, and TV shows. Is there one that stands out, something that you really enjoyed? Now, I know that you and Ed told me about what happened with that, was it Desperado? We were blowing you guys up. All of us. Your buddy Robin Wayne told me a little story about how you guys were in the movie, the TV series Desperado, and how you were you got blown up, yeah. But is there another memorable one? Like, is there another one of those where you sit there and go, wow, this is one of my most ridiculous memories?
We were doing a film it was like a trailer for a possible film. And it was about Apache Indians that were living in the Chiricahuas that were still living there today. And they were like the Bronco Apaches, the ones who kept going after Geronimo surrendered.
Right.
And they had been raiding the towns and stuff. And the movie was actually, or the little short film was actually quite good. But anyway, we're doing a scene, and I'm an Indian. I got this black wig down to here, all painted up, you know, with dark makeup and what have you. And we're ambushing some guys, and they throw a bomb at me, a grenade or something, and it blows up, and I'm on the edge of a cliff, and I fall off the cliff. Well, down about 15 feet, there are 2 huge granite boulders, and I had taken my foam pad, which was about 8 by 12 by 4 foot thick, and shoved it down between these 2 big granite boulders, right? And so I'm going to come off, fall, land on the pad. Well, the explosion went off behind me, I took my flying leap, hit the pad, boom, perfect, everything went great. But then I saw smoke all over me. There was like smoke all over. And I'm like, what the hell's on fire, you know? And what had happened was this wig was made of plastic. And it was like 3 inches long now. And it was on fire on my head.
Oh, that's terrible. I'm sorry to laugh, but that's
it's kind of funny now.
Yeah, it's funny now.
But because the girl who did the wardrobe stuff, she'd put like 20 bobby pins in my hair to hold it on my head.
Oh,
so I couldn't get it off my head.
Oh,
you know?
no.
And it's just smoking and smoking. It wasn't actually flaming, but it was smoldering.
Smoldering, right? Yeah.
And it was like dripping stuff down, and it was just.
Tell me, they got that in the one take, right? They didn't have to do it.
one
Okay,
take.
good, because that wig is gone at that point.
It was gone.
I was at the 75th. That's when I first saw you. And that was a really amazing show you guys did that day. I saw the first one. First of all, it was neat to see the different generations of stunt actors from old Tucson do a show. Second of all, it was well produced. I mean, there were explosions and there was people riding. All the bad guys were riding in on horseback. I think you were a lawman in the show I saw. Yeah, you were a lawman.
You boys are all under arrest.
Under thanks. Hold on a second there. No, dog. What are the charges? What are the charges?
Stupidity.
I really enjoyed that, and it was really, I think it was well received too. Did you have a good time doing that?
Oh, I loved it. Yeah.
Yeah.
It was like being in a time machine.
Yeah.
For me.
Right.
It was like I had stepped back, 15 years or so, and was doing it again.
Everyone from the 1980s.
So you never really got seriously injured while you were doing stunts?
Oh, yes. Yeah.
You did?
Numerous times.
Oh, like broken bones kind of?
I broke my left wrist 3 times.
Oh, my goodness.
Busted my right knee severely one time.
Really? Oh, jeez.
Injured my back a handful of times. More concussions than I can remember.
You already told me that 4 times. I'm kidding. Wow, that's crazy. So you were in the hospital quite a bit, huh?
No, I never really stayed in the hospital. I would go down there and they would look at me and say, okay, you're injured. Wrap you up and send you home.
Yeah.
'Tis but a scratch.
A scratch? Your arm's off.
No, it isn't.
Well, what's that then?
I've had worse.
You liar.
Here's one that was kind of funny. Dan Delegati.
Oh, I know that name.
He was playing Marshall. There's a gunshot. He comes running in off stage and shoots his gun in the air. He goes, "What's going on here?" Right? Well, he comes running into town, and because it was raining, he didn't want to stand out in the rain, so he runs up on the boardwalk right in front of the Red Dog Cafe. And he's getting ready to shoot his gun. The boardwalk was wet from the rain. His foot slipped off under him. And he sat down like this, right on his spur.
Ooh.
And it stabbed him in the butt. I mean, he had blood coming out his butt right there on his hip,
Wow.
Where his spur punctured him.
Oh, that's a story he's going to have the rest of his life. So one of the things that's interesting when I was reading these books, and by the way, I feel like you subscribers out there, or you viewers at all, if you get a chance, pick up a book about Stuntman and read it. It's fascinating, and I think we take it for granted. We watch these things happen in movies, and we don't know what goes into it. And you read these books, and you really learn a lot. And just talking to the people I work with every day, it's just fascinating to me. So I respect what you do so much. Chuck Robeson in his book talked about, I think Yakima did too in his, talked about how at one point he had to play both the Indian and the soldier. So at one point in the film, there is Chuck Robeson, the soldier, shooting and killing Chuck Robeson, the Indian.
I did the same thing.
Okay, I'm going to ask all of you guys that. So you all killed yourselves at some point?
At some point.
Really?
Pretty much. We made a real good living dying.
Dying ain't much of a living, boy.
Well, actually...
I noticed too on your resume, not that resume, but the one on IMDb, and you were in the last James Arness movie that he ever made. It was Gunsmoke. I can't remember the name of it. Played the role of Henry. You remember that? At least it says that on IMDb.
I don't remember what my name was, but there's a scene with Bruce Boxleitner, and we're in a little cantina there at Old Tucson, and we're sitting in there playing poker. It's like a real dark, dingy little saloon, and James Arness and Bruce Boxleitner come in, and James Arness goes and talks to somebody, and Bruce Boxleitner comes over and he's like, "Oh, mind if I sit down in your game, you know?" So we're like, "Sure, go ahead." And there's three of us, and so we're playing poker, and after we play a couple of hands, he's winning all our money. And so
you get a little
he's
hot.
like, "Well, I gotta go, you know," and he starts filling up his money, and we're like, "No, you can't leave, you know," and he's like, "Well, I gotta go, you know." So I reach and I grab his bandana and I slam his face into the table.
Getting warmed up.
Don't even think about it, old timer.
I didn't win enough to dust a fiddle, boys.
Too much for us.
Let him up.
We're borrowing trouble.
Then he comes up and flips the table, grabs me, and we go over to the bar, and we're like struggling at the bar. Then he drags me over across the bar, the saloon floor, and shoves my face into the pot-bellied stove that's burning, sticks my face to the stove, and then James Arness shows up again, and he's like, "All right, everybody, you know," and then they back out of the saloon and right out of town.
Okay. But you grew up watching Gunsmoke, I'm sure, right? I mean,
Oh,
you knew
yeah,
of it.
absolutely.
So, I mean, was it pretty exciting the day that you found out that you get to meet Matt Dillon? I mean, was that pretty exciting?
Got to meet him, shake his hand. He's a giant of a man.
6'7", big dude.
When I went to shake his hand, it was like his hand was twice the size of my hand.
Wow.
I'm serious,
Yeah,
twice the
yeah,
size.
Yeah.
That's how big a man he
Wow,
was.
that's crazy. Jeez.
Well, anytime there was a barroom brawl, of course, you got chairs and tables and bottles breaking.
That's fun, right? I mean, I've been hit by a breakaway bottle, but never a breakaway chair. But, I mean, that has to be fun.
It is, yeah. You have to do it right, or you'll hurt somebody.
Right.
You hit them with the center of the bottle.
Yeah.
You hit them with the end of the bottle, the bottom of it, it can lay
slice
you
you
open.
Right, yeah.
But in the beginning, they used to use candy glass, which was sugar. And then they went to a plastic-like glass later on.
That's what they're using now.
A breakaway glass, which is mostly what we used. But at like $10 a bottle, you don't break that many bottles.
They're $20 a bottle now.
You know?
Yeah. It's not inexpensive to go do that.
Here's a funny little story. One of the first shows that I worked on, before I was even SAG, was with Robert Preston in a Western out there. And I'm one of the guys at the bar. And this young guy, Robert Preston's talking to him. And then the kid says something smart, and Robert Preston grabs his head and slams his head into the bar, right? So they're like, well, how are we going to do this? So they came out, and the coordinator, he comes up and he says, okay, we got to try to sell it somehow, so we'll put padding. He's like, okay. So they practiced a little bit at slow motion, boom, boom. Okay. So we got ready to do it. Camera's rolling, start the dialogue, and Robert Preston reached up and grabbed the kid by the back of the head and slammed his head into the bar. But as he went down, his hat flew off.
Oh, that's not
and he
funny.
went boom right into the bar. He had a big old goose egg on the front of his forehead.
Did you watch this happen, or did you hear it?
I was standing right there watching.
Right there. Okay.
When he wakes up, he won't be so cranky.
when you do stunts off a horse, and I was reading a little bit about this, and I don't know if it happens every time, so I'd like clarification. But if you're going to do a horse fall, maybe the horse is falling with you, maybe you're falling off the horse, whatever the case is. I know that at some point they would map it out so that there would be a softer area, or that they would create a softer area for you to fall into. Was that always the case, or were there just ways of doing it where you didn't get hurt?
If you had an
hard ground out
opportunity
here.
to make it softer without it looking weird,
Yeah,
because you can't take a rototiller out and till it up,
yeah.
and then, you know,
I would imagine it's also hard to like hit that spot on an animal, right? It's got to be hard to just we
why
got to
they-
stop right there at that rock, you know.
that's why they pay you more money.
Okay.
You hit your mark.
Yeah.
If you don't hit your mark, you're not on film.
No, that's a good point.
You know,
yeah.
you've got to hit your mark.
Yeah.
The thing about doubling an actor is for the ones who are actually doing the stunt doubling of the actor, not just a stand-in or a photo double, but an actual stunt double. You have to walk like that actor. You have to stand like that actor. You have to move like that actor. So
Right.
you have to study the actor and then act like the actor and then do the stunt also. So you not only have to be a stuntman, but you also have to be a darn good actor to sell it,
Right.
to make it look like, you know, people don't even think twice. Yeah, that was him, when definitely it wasn't.
Teach me to do that gag sometime. He wants to learn how to drive a motorcycle underneath the truck. What are you, crazy?
One of my fondest memories of growing up and going. Now, I didn't go to Old Tucson first. I went to a place called Six Gun Territory down in Florida. It's gone now. Of course, all the people that down there kind of started it back up again in a different area. But I remember meeting the gunfighters. I don't know if you know how impactful you are to the children that are watching your shows. People like me end up starting YouTube channels because of you guys, you know what I mean? And that's really what it comes down to. The memory of meeting you and having you hand me one of your old dead blanks, you know. I still have that blank. These are really important moments in kids' lives. I'm sure you shook a lot of hands and gave out a lot of blanks to kids.
Thousands.
Yeah.
Yeah, every day.
Yeah. Do any of them ever come up and see you later on and say, "Hey, I remember you," or you ever had that happen?
Quite often. Here's a funny little story. Me and Ed are sitting there on the porch of the Wells Fargo. It's like 87, 88. And we always had our feet up on the hitch and rail in chairs sitting there on the Wells Fargo bank. And these two beautiful young women come walking up. Oh, hi, you know, take a picture with you? We're like, sure, come on over, you know. And so they're sitting on our laps. And they took a picture.
Now they're on your laps?
Yeah, they're sitting in our laps. And then the
doing the
girl
wrong
gets
thing
up
at
and
Old
she goes, oh, you know, she says, you're the same guy. And she looks at Ed and she takes out of her purse this picture of this little girl sitting on Ed's lap from like 10 years before, right? She was like, I don't know, 8 or 10 years old at that time.
Yeah.
Now she's like 18 or
Right,
probably closer to 20.
Yeah.
And it was the same little girl sitting on Ed's lap, 10 years later sitting on Ed's lap again.
Oh,
you know?
that's funny.
So,
Wow.
yeah, there are some cases like that.
Yeah.
I always used to I've got a box, I don't know, probably 50 letters in there of people who I had no idea who they were.
Right.
But they would send me a letter to Old Tucson and they would be delivered to me. And in the envelope would be a letter saying how I had made their day, you know, that I had walked them around and showed them some stuff. I had taken time out of my day to, you know, kind of give them a little tour. And there'd be the envelope would be packed full of photographs of this family with me, you know. Just, I've got lots of those. I mean, dozens of those letters.
I'd love to see him at some point. That's great. I guess in a way I would love it if you would look back in those days and realize how impactful you were to people like me. I mean, you helped keep the Old West alive, and we all looked up to people like you. So, you know, literally we did look up because you were taller. But yeah, unless we were sitting on your lap, which would be a little creepy if it was me. But I want to thank you for coming on today because you know it's a real pleasure. I admire you and thanks for coming on.
I appreciate what you're doing. It's part of history, I guess. You know, I always felt like old Tucson was the last gateway to the Old West.
Yeah. Now, normally, Robin, I don't let people interrupt me on my last line, but I'm going to let you do this today, okay? Folks, thanks for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe.
And we'll see you on down the trail.